planet Orus 9 was supposed to be the end of human expansion. It was the throne world of the Vexor, a species that had long ago traded their flesh for data and their souls for silicon. The Vexor didn't fight with soldiers. They fought with code. Their atmosphere was a thick, invisible soup of electromagnetic interference. A digital web that could turn a human tank's targeting computer against its own crew in a millisecond. To the Vexor, war was a game of silence. They didn't need to fire a single shot to win. They simply broadcast a data scream. A pulse of energy so complex and aggressive that it fried every circuit, jammed every radio, and bricked every smart weapon within 1,000 miles. For centuries, invaders had landed on Orus 9, only to find their high-tech rifles frozen, their power armor locked tight, and their ships falling from the sky like dead birds. When the 101st Sloggers Regiment arrived, the Vexor High Control felt nothing but calculated pity. They saw the human fleet, usual blocky iron ships, and prepared the silence. Initiate the data scream, the Vexor Central Core commanded. Extinguish their light. Let them sit in the dark until they starve. On the surface, the effect was instantaneous. Thousands of human soldiers were mid-push toward the main Vexor spire. Suddenly, their heads-up displays flickered and died. Their smart rifles, which required a digital handshake to unlock the trigger, became nothing more than heavy plastic clubs. Their radios emitted only static. "My HUD is dark. I can't see the targets," a young private screamed, tearing off his electronic helmet. "My rifle won't fire. The OS is corrupted." Another yelled frantically, clicking a dead trigger. The Vexor drones began to advance, sleek, multi-legged machines that didn't need to aim. They moved in perfect synchronization, guided by a central server. They saw the humans as helpless, blinded children. The Vexor didn't even bother with camouflage. They walked openly, confident the humans had no way to hit them. But in the center of the human line, Sergeant Elias Thorne was calm. He wasn't looking at his smartwatch. He was an old-school soldier in a new-school war. Thorne reached into a long wooden crate, carried into the trenches by hand, and pulled out a weapon that looked like it belonged in a museum. Made of dark, oil-rubbed walnut and heavy cold steel, it had no battery, no screen, no software. It was a bolt-action rifle, a 7.62mm iron classic. "Sloggers, listen up." Thorne's voice boomed across the silent trench, unaided by any speaker. "They killed your gadgets. They killed your toys. But they didn't kill the powder. Strip your electronics. Throw away the plastic junk. Grab the iron." The veterans of the 101st knew the drill. This was why they were called the Sloggers. While the rest of the galaxy had moved to lasers and guided smart rounds, the Sloggers had spent every weekend on the range with mechanical triggers and leaf sights. Thorne stood on the firing step, looking through a simple notch of steel at the end of his barrel. A Vexor drone glowed purple 300 yards away, mocking the dead human technology. He took a deep breath, feeling the cold steel of the trigger against his finger. He wasn't waiting for a computer to tell him when to fire. He was trusting his eyes. The rifle kicked hard into Thorne's shoulder, a violent reminder of the power of expanding gas. A cloud of gray smoke and orange flame erupted from the muzzle. 300 yards away, the lead Vexor drone's central sensor pod didn't just malfunction. It exploded. A 175-grain lead-core bullet, moving at 2,600 feet per second, punched straight through the expensive, unshielded glass. The drone sparked and collapsed into the mud. The Vexor High Control paused. Logic error. How had a projectile been fired without digital ignition? How had the human hit a target at that range without a ballistic computer? Recalculate, the core ordered. It was a fluke. Continue the advance. Then the human line spoke at once. Boom, 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 boom. The trenches filled with the smell of sulfur and the rhythmic clack of thousands of steel bolts being cycled by hand. The Vexor drones, walking openly because they assumed the human smart targeting was offline, began to fall in heaps. The humans weren't firing beams of light that could be refracted. They were firing solid pieces of metal that didn't care about electronic jamming. They were using springs. A Vexor subcommander signaled in digital shock. They are using chemical explosions to propel mass. There is no software to hack. There is no signal to jam. They are using the laws of the physical world. The Vexor tried to adjust, sending a massive electromagnetic pulse designed to fry any internal combustion engine. But the humans weren't using engines. They were walking. They were charging. Thorne led the way, bayonet fixed to the end of his rifle, a 10-inch spike of sharpened steel. "The gospel of momentum, boys," he roared. If it doesn't have a chip, they can't stop it. Keep the pressure on. The siege of Orus 9 became a nightmare for the high-tech aliens. One drone getting hit by a dumb bullet caused a data lag in the rest of the unit. The humans were decentralized. Every soldier was an independent fire control system, a self-contained engine of war. They breached the outer walls of the spire. The Vexor defenders, essentially floating brains in jars, had never seen a human up close. They had always fought through screens. Now they saw men covered in mud and blood, swinging heavy wooden stocks, driving steel blades into delicate machinery. Thorne reached the central chamber. The high control core, a massive glowing sphere of pure data, stood before him. Wait, the core broadcasted through a speaker, its voice trembling. We can negotiate. We can give you our technology. We can upgrade your primitive weapons. We can make you gods of the digital age. Thorne looked at the glowing sphere, then at the empty brass casing he had just ejected from his rifle. See this? He asked. This is a piece of brass. Inside it, a bit of powder. On the end, a bit of lead. No fancy code. No hidden logic. Just a bit of fire and a lot of momentum. He chambered his last round. Clash. Your problem, Thorne said, leveling his rifle, is that you think the world is made of ones and zeros. Out here, in the mud, the world is made of lead and steel. And lead doesn't have an off switch. He pulled the trigger. The high control core shattered as the bullet tore through its crystal lattice. The silence died instantly. The purple lightning in the sky vanished. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. The high-tech human gear flickered back to life. HUDs rebooted. Smart guns ran self-diagnostics, but the soldiers of the 101st didn't even look. They were too busy cleaning mud off their iron sights and counting empty casings. This was the low-tech siege. Humanity was the only species in the galaxy that understood. Technology is a luxury, but physics is a necessity. They kept a club under the bed and a mechanical rifle in the closet. The more complex a machine, the easier it is to break. But a spring, a firing pin, a bit of gunpowder. These were eternal truths. The Vexor throne world fell that day not to a superior AI, but to a species willing to go back to the mud and the iron. We prove you can hack the mind, but you can't hack the hammer. Please follow my channel for more videos. One click from you can change my life.